Happy New Year!
Oh my gosh, Happy New Year!
It's our first YouTube live of the new year, so it feels actually like the year's kind of well on its way now, doesn't it? We're a week into it.
It does, yeah. Happy New Year feels, feels
a bit dated.
So last week.
Yeah, yeah, quite. So here we are, back in the new year with our first YouTube show of the year. We hope you had a really, really good holiday, and whatever you did, whether you celebrated Christmas and New Year, or whether you had time off work, or whether it was just a normal couple of weeks for you, unlike us. We took a couple of weeks out, which is really, really nice.
We did, yeah. It's lovely to be back in the office.
It's actually been really nice being back in the office, hasn't it? I think for us. So just to get started, a couple of things we've got coming up we thought we'd share with you. There is still just about time to dive into our January mini mentoring. If you saw, we did a little mini mentoring program in December before Christmas.
Oh, it was fun.
It was really, really good fun, actually. We had a really lovely time, a great group of people, and some amazing conversations. So we decided to do it all again in January. So if you're interested in joining in with that, it's just a very mini sample of what we do on our full mentoring program. 3 calls, all live, and you get the recordings if you can't make it live, or if you want to keep them and rewatch them forever and ever, you get them to keep. And it's quite a small group, which is nice, so you kind of get to know everyone in the group, and that is starting next Tuesday. So there's still time to sign up for that if you want in on that. And off the back of that, we will then be doing the full mentoring program, which is entirely independent. So you can do both or one or the other. But if you already know that you'd love to deep dive with us into this conversation, then you can also sign up for the mentoring program, which starts in February. And that is 3 months of just amazing fun and conversation, tears and laughter, tears and laughter, and that's the first 5 minutes of the first call. So we love our mentoring programs, don't we? We're just sort of towards the end of our current one, actually. That's kind of wrapping up at the end of January, and already I'm a bit, I don't want it to end.
No, I definitely don't want that to end.
Yeah, we have a
get
great
them to sign up again.
Yeah, so yes, that's kind of anything else we've got coming up, Deb?
So we have our retreat. We've been having a retreat in February for quite a few years, I think. So our February retreat is coming up. It is the 21st to the 24th of February. And yeah, all our retreats are just great fun, hanging out together, just a beautiful, beautiful space. We have such amazing feedback from the retreats, and like everything we do, to be honest, I think we've just set up our lives to be doing what we want to do day in, day out, and certainly going away for the weekend and doing a retreat is something that we absolutely love. And as I said, everybody who comes on them, we have nothing but really great feedback from them. So if you would like to join us in February for our retreat, there is still time to book on that. That is on our website. I will make sure the link is below this video, but it is daretobeyou.co.uk. And if you've got any questions or you want to get in contact with us, we're fairly open, and we just love having conversations with people. And that is one of the things that we have been putting out there since the new year. We put it in our newsletter this week. If you would like to have a conversation with us because you think maybe there's something we can help you with, we would absolutely love to do that. Love to jump on a call with you. So feel free to get in touch for that as well.
Yeah.
And then the other really, really exciting thing in the last, since we've been back in the office this week, was it Wednesday? So since Monday, when we came back in the office, we have been thinking about what we would like to do in 2020, the year of perfect vision. So we've been having some really, really good fun. Beck and I are very much we love playing offices. We love our whiteboards. We love our coloured pens. we love all this. So we've been deciding, what we might like to do in 2020. And one of the things that we've been talking about for a little while that we are really, really excited about is that we are going to start something called Relationship School. And it's starting in April. I know we have got a date, but I can't. Anyway.
Yeah, it's starting at the very beginning of April.
Yeah, and we've got a couple of things that we're doing before that to kind of run up to the Relationship School to give you a feel of, what might be going on there. So we've got another 5-day challenge, which we absolutely love to do coming up in our Facebook group. And that is happening in February, and then we have got a video series all about relationships coming up in March to get ready for the relationship school in April. So that's just all stuff to look out for and be aware of. And if you've got any questions about all of that, please feel free to be in touch, because we love hearing from you.
Yeah.
So to just jump into tonight's exciting show, because we've got a lot going on, Beck, living and learning for over Christmas. Oh, goodness me.
Living and learning, hey. So we haven't done the show the last 2 Wednesdays because it was Christmas Day and New Year's Day. So you might have seen we put out some little fun videos to just, just keep in touch with you. So this is our first line. So actually, living and learning, instead of for the last week, is probably for the last 3 weeks.
Oh, gosh.
So you should have learned settle down, get comfortable. There's lots to come. It's, living and learning for the last few weeks. It definitely, for me, over kind of my 30-something-ish years, Christmas time has always been one of those big family time, wind down to the end of the year, relax, eat a lot, play games, have presents, that kind of stuff. It's always been really quite a nice time of year for me, actually. Like, if I kind of look back on my Christmases, they're usually pretty nice and pretty decent, and I generally go into them with a bit of an expectation of them being that way, and I'm not often disappointed. And this Christmas wasn't any different. But I definitely noticed this year, more than any other, the learning for me was around that kind of expectation thing, and how easily we can set ourselves up for expecting something to be a certain way. And I mean that either which way. Like, we can expect something to be extremely good, and either it is or it isn't, or we can expect something to be really, really bad. And just how much we do that to ourselves, how much we kind of build up our expectations. And that for me is very much that whole, when we start
Christmas
to see,
is huge for that.
I think Christmas is one of those times that kind of universally people do that, don't they? They kind of have those expectations of Christmas should be this, Christmas will be this.
And equally, do you know what, it is either way. I've seen people, I'm going to be lonely at Christmas, I'm going to be sad at Christmas isn't going to be an easy time for me. So we definitely can set ourselves up for stuff over Christmas in all sorts of ways, can't we?
And and Christmas happens to be one of those times I think universally a lot of people do that, but I think there's loads and loads of places where we do that to ourselves. And for me, it's very much like, as I've explored this conversation, and as I've really kind of seen how much thinking we can have around stuff, knowing that thought creates our experience is so key. Like, we mentioned the relationship school just before we kind of came on. We've been chatting about what some of the content for that's going to be, and as we often like to do in programs like that, a part of that is going to be back to basics. And for me, the kind of back to basics is coming right back to thought creates experience, and that alone can change your world. Seeing that, knowing that to be true, can change your world. And for me, I just saw that all over again at Christmas. The whole, I had thoughts, and good, bad, whatever you might want to call them. I had some thoughts that my family should do this. I had some thoughts, it's really, really good fun when I get together and play games with my family. And we had, a few days here and there where we did that, and thoughts of my friends and family, my partner, whoever, should buy me presents like this, or they shouldn't buy me presents, which was some of the thinking that went on this time. And I've got a 2.5-year-old niece. She should enjoy Christmas this way, she should be up at this time to open her presents, and a whole variation of that. And what I really enjoyed more than anything this year was noticing that thinking and not buying into it in the same way that I have done. Really kind of actually being quite amused at times as to what my thinking was doing. Kind of, it floats across the top of my head almost, and there's thought doing its thing. And for a minute I'm having an experience of it should be this way, or it shouldn't be that way. And then in the next moment, I'm just there enjoying. My little niece was hilarious on Christmas Day. She got a little till so she could pretend to be at a supermarket or a shop. And
it's like us playing off.
It was exactly like us playing off. She gets a little zapper, so she zaps things and it clocks it up on the till, and she's there. And Lucy's just like a 2-year-old child herself a lot of the time. So she's there playing with her, and Lucy's buying this, and Skylar's zapping that, and the till's clocking up, and Lou has to borrow money from me to buy everything
just
from
like
her
real
niece.
life then.
It was so entertaining just watching her playing at shops, and I can remember playing at shops nowhere near as sophisticated when I was a kid as how she managed to do it. But I'm able to have those kind of experiences in a much more light-hearted way. And definitely for me over Christmas, hugely the learning was how much lighter my experience is and how much more I get from that experience when I know what's happening for me, when I know that I might have set it up that Christmas should be this or shouldn't be that. And yet just the experience of it, I don't know. I had a really, really lovely Christmas and New Year. And, I did various things. I had all sorts of things going on with my family, and then I had a week with my partner for New Year, and it's rare we get that much time together in one go, so that was really, really nice. And just a really nice time because I could just see again and again, in this moment I've set up that it should be like this. That's thought. I don't have to pay attention to it. And seeing through thought I think is my living and learning the last couple of weeks.
It's huge, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that's been,
and kind of almost sort of maybe a different way even of saying the exact same thing. For me, what I have seen during the Christmas period, and certainly since being back in the office after Christmas, is that letting go of stuff. I think once we've seen thought is creating this experience that we're having in this moment, and I don't need to continue engaging with that thought and keeping that experience going. And seeing it from both sides, from the really, over Christmas and over the holidays and when we were having time off, seeing, my thinking about how enjoyable this is and how lovely this is and how, amazing the world we live in is. Seeing that's the experience when I engage with that kind of thinking, and then noticing when I'm having an experience that I'm not so keen on, seeing that if I don't engage with the thinking about it, the experience doesn't get so intense and doesn't carry on so much in the same way. One of the things that I love to do is, where we live, when we get up in the morning, I just love looking out the window. We're on a farm and we look out and there's often sheep or cows or something in the field just outside where we are. And if it's a nice day and we've got maybe the sun, it can look amazing. And sometimes when the mist hangs over there, it just looks beautiful. And I love looking out of the window and kind of knowing that every day is a new day and looking to appreciate what I am seeing, no matter what that is. It's really one of the things that I have noticed is, again, how we set up things and it's a miserable day, it's raining or whatever, and yet looking out on that and seeing still the sky, even in its grey darkness, can be beautiful. And the way that thought creates our experience, the more that I look for that moment to moment in my life, the more I have that experience. And then when I am caught up in other experiences, one of the things, as I said, we've been doing is looking at what we're going to be doing coming up in the new year. And I was doing something on my computer with creating a book on my computer. And technology isn't my first forte. I quite enjoy it, but it isn't, my thing particularly. And we've got this program on my computer that I can make books in this way. And I've struggled with it and struggled with it and struggled with it. But I thought, right, okay, it's New Year. Let's try it again. Let's look at this program again. I was ever so grateful that Beck actually helped me with it and said, do you know what, Deb, this actually isn't you. This program doesn't work very well.
It really doesn't.
But I was really noticing, the thinking that I was having while I was doing this, that it should respond. When I'm pressing this button, it should respond. It should do this. It should format in this way. We've got this software. I should be able to create a really nice book to, put out and give to people. And I noticed how frustrated I was getting, and I noticed my experience. And I also noticed the thinking that was in there that said, if you don't interact with that thinking in that way, you will have a different experience. And even though I did stay a little bit frustrated about it, we were also, it was a kind of a funny frustration, wasn't it?
We were having a giggle about it.
It was definitely a much, as Beck was saying, a much lighter experience. And then we had the really great fortune to have a conversation last night with the lovely George Pransky. If you don't know George Pransky, he told us in our conversation yesterday, he was one of the first people to ever take Sydney Banks seriously. And Sydney Banks was the person who first talked about and first had an insight around the principles and pretty much the understanding that everything we share is based on. So George Pransky was one of his close friends and the first person to learn from him, and one of the first people to kind of share under Sid's wing, if you like. And so, yeah, we were having this amazing conversation with him yesterday, and he's been incredibly poorly. He almost died in just coming up to Christmas. He was very, very poorly. So he's not 21 anymore. But it was really, really interesting talking to him and him taking us back to the simplicity of what Sid shared. And the simplicity of what is available to us, and very much my learning while he was talking and pointing us towards this, what was his word they kept using? The
goodwill
in, that we have inside. And while he was saying that, I was thinking, I think I would use the word love there, but he was definitely kind of saying human beings are just full of goodwill. I was kind of remembering what was going on for me during the afternoon when I was creating this book, and the fact that I was moving away from my goodwill when I was getting frustrated and angry. And George was kind of saying, it's always available to us to go back there. And what we as human beings do is actually block ourselves from doing that. That is our, that goodwill, love, a peaceful feeling. That's our default state. That's who we are. And then we get so used to going away from that it feels like we have to get back there. It feels like we lose that default state. And in essence, what I heard in what George was saying yesterday was that if we get curious and if we look to see how this actually works, we begin to see that our default state is this good place. And I definitely can absolutely see the truth in that, and the simplicity that we don't look for that goodwill. We don't spend much time looking behind the obvious thinking that's just going through our mind. And I could see, in the moments when I was getting frustrated with that program, that what was going on for me was I wasn't taking any time actually to take a breath and look at what else was available. And in the moments when we did, it was really, it was fun. Even the frustration of it, we were laughing our heads off, weren't we?
Yeah, we were.
So yeah, my living and learning this week has been, learning about letting go and looking for that goodness, that love that all human beings are at their core.
Yeah, I absolutely loved our call with George yesterday. It was really, his whole kind of conversation around goodwill was just, I don't feel like goodwill is a word that I would use in just my general language. It isn't a word that kind of, I don't know whether it's more of an American word or just from kind of his conversations in the same. I noticed that we use particular words or phrases quite a lot, and then there's just other words that wouldn't be. But what I noticed about that, and what I love about this conversation, because what we're pointing to is beyond the words. As he was talking, he used the word quite a lot in the video. But as he was talking, I knew what he was pointing to. I felt it in me.
I think both of us.
Yeah, we were both sitting there like, oh, that. And even though it's not a word I would have used that I would necessarily even say makes a lot of sense to me, I knew where he was going. He was just so you could feel how genuine he was about what he was pointing to. And then towards the end of the conversation, he did say something, I can't remember quite how he worded it, but effectively he said, what I mean in that is love. And we were both like,
yes.
We knew that's kind of, that for us is the word that most resonates. But we could feel, if he'd have never said that sentence, we still would have felt what he was pointing to. And that for me is what I kind of love in this conversation, is we could say any words, but if what we're pointing to is kind of beyond the words, we feel it somewhere in us.
You could definitely feel the depth of his knowledge about how human beings operate, and that his certainty that is available to all of us all the time. And it was interesting, some of the little things that he shared to kind of point us back to that. And it is, we've all seen times when, for whatever reason, our thinking has dropped. And he talked about 9/11, didn't he? And how,
example.
Everybody, during the 9/11 times, people they stopped. People that they hadn't liked, hadn't spoken to, hadn't bothered to give the time of day, they were going out of their way to be kind and nice and generous and to live in that place of goodwill. And it was available like that. It didn't they didn't have to learn to do that. They were going about their business, and then it changed in an instant. And he was kind of saying, that's available to us. And it's like yesterday when I was working on that program and getting frustrated, I could easily see how I could tell the story. No, I'm annoyed with this and frustrated, and it's not available in this moment for me to be any different. But with even the little bit of understanding I've got of that, I couldn't say that with any conviction. If you'd actually said to me, right, okay, stop for a sec, look me straight in the eyes and tell me that all there is here is a frustration that's available to you. And I couldn't have hand on heart given you an honest answer and said, no, nothing else is available. I could see my okayness in that moment. And I think that's what is available to us when we get into this conversation. If somebody were to just kind of say, right, just a second, take your eyes off that, look at me and tell me that, honestly tell me, stop and look inside you and tell me you're not okay. And I don't think I could do that now anymore in any given moment. And I don't think any of us could. I think we just see the first thought that crosses our mind and go, no, I'm not okay. I'm really annoyed. This program should be better, should be different. But if we truly look, and I think if we take a minute now and then to truly look, our mind kind of gets to know that's what we want to do, and it opens and light floods in.
Nice. So our question this week is, how do I stop attracting unhealthy relationships? So this was a question. A lot of what we do, and you'll hopefully know this from, some of the stuff you've watched and seen of us, is around relationships, because without doubt that was the area that the two of us had our kind of biggest life-changing insights, and things are very different for us around that topic now. But over Christmas, as I kind of said, I had a lot of time with family and friends, and so I met up with some old friends, old not in age so much. No, definitely not age. Old as in, childhood type friends, people I've known for a very, very long time. And just in the course of conversations, I kind of notice sometimes what people are saying. And I definitely notice that it's something that we do, isn't it? Something that we do. We say something and we don't even realise how deeply we mean something. And I heard somebody kind of say something around attracting unhealthy relationships, and we kind of know that that's how this works, that we attract stuff like that into our lives, and then we kind of we say it flippantly and then walk away as though it has nothing to do with us. And so it kind of occurred to us when we were talking about what to do on our YouTube show. Relationships is definitely an area that for us is just massive. It impacts on a lot of stuff that we're doing in the world, and yet we can be very good at attracting what appear to be unhealthy, unbalanced, not so good relationships. So we thought that would be quite a nice question to start the year with. How do I stop attracting unhealthy relationships? Ooh, that's a humdinger. That's a starter. For me, this always comes back to And this was absolutely what happened for me. So I'm talking purely, from experience here. This always comes back to me. It starts with me. Great, happy, healthy relationships start with me. So if I'm kind of asking the question, how do I stop attracting unhealthy relationships? The first place and the only place to go with this is back to me. Because there's something in me, there's somewhere in me that I've kind of moved away from healthy. There's something in me that doesn't understand what healthy means. There's somewhere in me where I'm not feeling the health in myself, because the only way we attract anything is a reflection of us. Anything that we see is only ever a reflection of where we're at. And so the first biggest, most hugest insight I ever had was around loving myself, being okay with myself, knowing who I was and being okay with that. And that is definitely what changed my relationships. And, all relationships in my life changed from that. I don't mean overnight. It's maybe not a magic wand. But
sometimes I think it can be. It's one of those,
yeah,
isn't it?
It absolutely can. But
it's all on the table.
Yeah. Oh, we haven't used that one for a while.
Since before Christmas.
So for me, that was definitely the first place that I kind of started to explore, is getting to know myself, getting to know what it was about me that was lovable, likable, where the unhealthy parts of me were, because, there had to be some. If I'm having unhealthy experiences, like I said right at the beginning, thought creates our experience. If I'm having some unhealthy thinking, I'm going to have unhealthy relationships. And so definitely that was kind of my starting point. Get to know myself. And you'll know probably from the name of our business, Dare to Be You, that is massively what we point to. And that's a two-part game. That's a know yourself as your humanness, know who you are as a human being, and know how we work as spiritual beings. We were talking, I actually was asking Deb about this earlier, because we talk a lot about being human and being spiritual. And something that Deb sort of started talking about towards the end of last year was just to really clarify what we mean by that. We are 100% human and 100% spiritual, which sounds wrong.
Paradoxical,
because how can you be 100% of one thing and exactly 100% of something else?
200%.
That's pretty clever maths. But it's very much, as always in this conversation, an invitation for you to see how that is true, because we've seen that to be true for us and for everyone. And the more that we kind of explore that and get to know who I am as a human, and who I am, deeper than that, beyond that, the real truth of who I am. And both of those things are true at the same time. I'm both kind of a human individual that, loves being organized and likes playing at offices and likes this color and likes my hair like this and wears rings, whatever it might be. But I'm also something way more than those things. Like, that's not all I am. That's not all there is going on here. And the more I've explored the truth of who I am and started to see the 100% human and the 100% spiritual, I can't not fall in love with myself. I can't not be who I am and like who I am and love who I am. And from that space, healthier relationships are born.
So to kind of take it back to the question, how do I stop attracting unhealthy relationships? Going to the it's all on the table scenario, if you like. What I have seen, I know a lot of my work before we did this business was I worked with women who had been in abusive and unhealthy relationships. And I would always have this kind of fear. If you say that it is their fault or there's a part that they played in this relationship, it's kind of like, well, better not say that because they're already vulnerable and, we can't say it's their fault. So, and we can really get in our heads. And I know when Beck was kind of saying, bring this back to me. How do I attract these unhealthy relationships? How is it to do with me? And initially, and I know through conversations I've had with people, initially that can be quite a hard thing to swallow when we kind of say, yeah, this can change if you change. And this isn't about fault. It's never about fault. But it is absolutely, even though, first of all, it can be a bit of a hard thing to swallow, that if you change, this will change. I think that is the best news you will ever have, because if it didn't work that way, you would be screwed. You would be stuck. If if you got into an unhealthy relationship, however that appeared to happen, if it couldn't be that just purely by you changing and doing something different, this could be different, you'd be relying on trying to make somebody else do something different. And I don't know about you, but even when you want to do something, even when there's something in my life that I want to do different, I'm not always great at it. So making somebody else do something different that they maybe don't even want and don't even care about, it's impossible. You're never going to, get somebody else to do something different. They'll change in their time, on their time scales, when it's right for them. But this is something, if you bring it back to you and you get to know yourself, and you don't even have to beat up on yourself and be angry with yourself and kind of say, oh, this is my fault, I should have done it different. Oh, it's my fault now that I get into unhealthy relationships. It's not. That's not what we mean. That's not what we're pointing to. What we're pointing to is the fact that it is to do with you is the best news you'll ever have, because it means that you can change it and do something about it. And the changing and doing something about it does not involve being unkind, horrible, any of those kinds of things. It absolutely 100% involves being kind to yourself, being patient with yourself, being loving towards yourself. And for me, the getting to know myself part is noticing it's always available for me to be okay. And so then if someone says to me, when I was in an incredibly unhealthy relationship, and, if someone was to say, oh, okay, so you attracted that, it's your fault. I've noticed I've now got a choice. I'm kind of at a crossroads here. I can say, oh, so this is my fault. I did this. I'm useless. I'm rubbish. I can kind of go down that road. Or I can choose, okay, this was down to me. So I'm the one that can change this. I can do something different. And I can choose a path that is helpful to me and is useful to me and does something good. And it looks to me, always we have that choice. Like when I was doing that program and trying to make that book, I could look at, oh, this is all I can do. I'm rubbish at this. The program's no good. It shouldn't be like this. Or I could look in another direction and see, well, it is like this. Maybe it's time to take a break, or maybe there's a different way to do the book, or maybe there's something else for me to see here. And there's always, in any given moment, we can go down that path of beating ourselves up, being cross with ourselves, not making use of the information that's in front of us. Or we can look and we can see that there is a path here that we can take that is going to get us somewhere, that is going to help us. And it looks to me like those two things are always on the table with everything, because what we are sharing is beyond the words. All words can be taken in more than one way. And it looks to me like my job is to look for the light, look towards that love, look towards that well-being or that goodness. That was what George was pointing to. That's what he was kind of saying. If you get into a place of goodwill, if you get into that place, that's your default setting. And when we do that, we begin to see ways to change our relationship, ways to be different in that relationship, or we find that we have the courage to end that relationship if that's what it has to be. But there's not oh, okay, how do I stop attracting unhealthy relationships? Number one, you do this. Number two, you do that. Number three, each relationship, every single relationship we are in is unique, and it has its moments of being beautiful and it has its moments of being not so beautiful. But if we continue to stay in our well-being, if we continue to look towards love, if we continue to get to know this deeper truth of who we are, we will find ourselves looking towards that love and seeing that love more and more and more. And all our relationships, I know, as Beck said, you know, the reason we do what we do is because both of us managed to get ourselves into a mess around relationships and into some very, very, very unhealthy places. And simply by seeing that and bringing it back to us, Beck bringing it back to herself and learning about who she was, and me doing that for myself, has changed every relationship in my life, you know, my children, my partner, everybody that I meet, you know, as a day-to-day, it's changed all of them. And so the potential to do that and to change every relationship for the better. And the changes have been different in different relationships. Some relationships I've outgrown now and I'm not in them anymore. And other relationships, you know, I have different friends and, you know, I'm spend my time with different people. So I think it is the best news that you have ever had when you're kind of saying, how do I stop attracting unhealthy relationships? You look to that deeper truth of who you are, and you get into this conversation and you learn to know more about yourself, and a natural byproduct will be your relationships will be happy, healthy ones.
I really love the point you were making about the kind of there's not a how to step 1, step 2, step 3 kind of answer here, because exactly like you just said there, the more we get to know ourselves, we just naturally know how to have happy, healthy relationships. Like we have this, like we've talked about this before, without doubt, we have this inner guidance system, this inner knowing, this kind of wisdom, which is one of my favorite things to kind of explore, is this something in us that knows that. When I said we're 100% human and we're 100% spiritual, that spiritual nature that we are knows how to do this life, this humanness, without any like how-to steps, without 10 steps to this or 12 steps that. We know how to do that, and that's personal to us. Like how-to, the way that I did, the things that I did, and the steps that I took and the experiences I had, they won't be right for you. They won't be necessarily the right things for you to do. You know that. You're the expert on you. So again, when we're talking about bringing it back to you, that's because you know the answers for yourself. We don't know those answers for you. We can hazard some guesses. We could maybe tell you some of what we did, and it might be, kind of all right. It might sound reasonably good. It might get you some, but you are the expert on you. Our job here is only ever to point you back to that, to say, we don't have 7 steps to happy, healthy relationships. There's 1 step: get to know you, and you will just have the answers. And it sounds like almost too easy, and it sounds too magical and too, yeah, right. But that is how this works. That 100% spiritual is how this works. You will know how to have happy, healthy relationships when you trust that you know that. The more you look to that, the more you get to know yourself around this. The more you ask those questions in whatever way makes sense for you, you will get your answers. You will find a way to know what it is that you're doing or not doing, saying or feeling, where it is in you that in some way is, like Deb says, with no fault whatsoever, attracting the relationships you don't want, and how it is to, be in the happy, healthy relationships that from experience we know are available. We know that's possible. And so it is absolutely about you getting to know you getting to know, how do you find your own answers in this? Because that's what we've done. Like there's no exact route. There's no absolute follow this, do this, and that's guaranteed. It's come back to knowing yourself. So our topic for this week is Love the you that you are. So we are, we're part of a summit that is taking place, hosted by Nutriri.org, who are hosting a lot of webinars, interviews, that kind of thing. A summit called As You Are, and it's all around kind of, being who you are and trusting and knowing who you are. And we're doing a webinar for that on Friday night. And we've been talking a little bit about that and what that kind of meant to us and what we're going to do on our webinar. And the phrase "love the you that you are" came out for us as we were talking about it. So we thought, oh, what a great way to start the year, which actually fits kind of nicely with the question that we've just explored, actually. So I don't know, maybe for me, the "love the you that you are" is just another way of saying dare to be you, really, isn't it? It's that whole, exactly as we've just talked about. As you get to see the human and spiritual nature that you are, as you get to see how those two work in perfect harmony, like this system has no faults. There are no design faults, unlike that terrible system we were using for the ebook yesterday. There are no design faults here.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, I mean, if it was designed like that ebook program yesterday, but there are no faults in this system. That isn't how this works. And so for me, the kind of getting to see how that can be true, getting to see how we can be both 100% human and 100% spiritual at the same time, just a kind of natural, like exactly like Deb was saying in the question a minute ago, a natural byproduct of that is that we start to love who we are, is that we start to accept where we're at. And what I love about that then is that any changes that make sense to us to make, anything we see to do differently, comes from an entirely different place. Like, we operate entirely differently when we are beating ourselves up and trying to change ourselves from that kind of headspace of I'm no good, I'm not good enough, I should be different, versus when we do something from a space of knowing who we are, accepting who we are, loving who we are. Anything we do from that space is just magical. It's beautiful. It's sweet. It's the right thing for us. There was something else I was going to say as I was saying that. I was like, oh, and that, and then it went away. So I'm obviously not going to say that. It might come back.
Come back.
But it is very much about getting to see your true nature. And your true nature is the same as mine and the same as Deb's, and it's everything we point to. And the more we kind of see that, the more that loving who we are in this moment makes sense. It makes sense to love who I am. Oh, that's what it was going to be. I was going to talk about my youngest sister is a sports coach, a football coach, and I've kind of watched her do football coaching and stuff over the years. And she's a very good coach, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm practically an expert on football coaching, so you can trust my opinion on this one. But I watch her coach, and what I notice her doing is that kind of encouraging coaching, picking out the things people are good at and expanding on that and building on that. And then, across my vast experience of life, I've seen people coach and teach and train in ways completely the opposite, where you kind of pick on somebody's faults and you, kind of beat them down in front of people and point out what's wrong and how they've made mistakes. And you can just, in that example, you know what's coming. You know what I'm going to say next, right? It's obvious when you're lifting someone up and encouraging them and guiding them and helping them in what they do well. They're going to blossom, they're going to grow, they're going to, develop. When you're beating them down and when you're picking on all their faults, they just don't. And we know that, in teaching people, in training people, in coaching people, in just having a conversation in an office environment. If I was sitting next to Deb yesterday and she's struggling with that ebook and I said, "You're useless, let me do it," she's probably not going to make another ebook. But when I sit with her and go, okay, so I can see this system isn't working brilliant either. Let's have a go at this together. That worked well, Deb. Let's try more of that. We worked it out. We got somewhere with it. And that's the same with loving the you that you are. If you're the kind of person that beats yourself up and tries to get the best out of yourself by being horrible and not looking and accepting yourself from love, what do you expect is going to happen? And when we truly accept who we are, love where we're at, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to blossom. You're going to become the true person that you are.
So the Nutruri summit that we're speaking on Friday evening, that is it's a lovely lady named Helen that we met at the conference in London, the Three Principles conference in London, and she is very keen to get rid of people who. Get rid of people?
Get rid of people who is not the way to phrase that. Shall I rephrase that slightly? What she's aiming to do is
stop
entirely entirely remove the dieting culture.
Yes, because
entirely
people and it's because it appears that don't ever say I said she was going to get rid of people.
She's going to get rid of people. We'll give you her name later. Brilliant.
She's kind of watched people who go on diets, and it's very much, it comes from this place of I'm not good enough in this moment. I need to be different to love myself, and that I'll be happy when. And that's the love the you that you are comes very much from, like Beck was saying, the exact opposite. When we go in this place of I don't like myself the way that I am at the moment, and when I am different I will like myself, and then trying to change from that place, we've already scuppered ourselves, and it's going to be, if we do it, it's going to be incredibly difficult. And yet change from a place of loving ourselves first is natural and organic and happens in a truly beautiful way. And it is, I think it's really, really easy with the society that we live in and how much comparison there is everywhere. You don't have to go very far to see people judging and comparing. And we are, as human beings, we are incredibly good at that. We're always doing this. We're judging and comparing. And when we judge and compare ourselves with other people, then we very often make ourselves come up short. And even, to be honest, when we do it the other way around, when we're kind of like, oh, I'm not as good as those people, but I'm better than those people. Even that, in a sense, to me, isn't loving myself. It isn't, that being judgmental and being, comparing everything in those ways is one of the most unhelpful things that we can do. And yet quietly beginning to look and accept the you that you are right now, this person that I am right now in this moment, just loving me now. That is the only starting point. I remember when I was a child, my granddad would have this thing. If ever we were going anywhere, he would just have this funny thing. Oh, if I was going there, I wouldn't start from here. And it was just kind of like a bit of a joke. It's something that I remember about my granddad. But it's like the only place we ever have to start from is here, where we are right now, this moment. And the only moment we ever have is this moment. And if we spend this eternal moment thinking that we need to be different, we need to be better at something, we need to, I wish I was like this person, I wish I was better at that. I can't tell you how long in my business, I would look at other people and think, I want to be that person. I want to be more like that. I want to do that better. And yet, when we kind of decided on the name Dare to Be You and just decided, do you know what? We're not going to model ourselves on someone else and do this the way someone else does this. We are just going to do what makes sense to us. We're just going to keep showing up. Day after day, week after week, we're just going to keep doing this and actually daring to just be who we are in this moment. And in that, I think you give other people permission to be who they are too. I know, me and Beck, we do this show every week and we do Facebook Lives, and half the time when we come on these things, it would be really, really easy, and I'm fairly sure that I'm speaking for Beck too, but there would be times when it would be really easy for me to kind of say, I'm not going on today. My hair didn't go right this morning, or, I'm looking what I'm seeing right now. When I'm looking at the camera, my eyes aren't right, and this is, I haven't put the right thing. Whatever it is, it's really, really easy. And I sit next to Beck sometimes and think, oh, I'm 20 years older than Beck, and she looks so young, and I look so old. Blah 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 blah. We compare, and in those moments, my habit is not to come off as well as the other person. And then sometimes I do it. I do look and think, well, yeah, I'm better than that person. Yeah, I don't look as bad as them when I do a video. And to me, none of that is helpful. None of it is helpful. And if we go back to our living and learning for this week, and to kind of see that when we stop listening to that kind of thinking going through our heads, when we stop buying into it and stop taking notice of it, either way, whether we are better than someone else or whether we are not as good as someone else, when we stop listening to that thinking and just seeing, one of the things that I love to do sometimes is to just look at my hands and feet. I just look at my hands and feet and think, wow, how lucky am I that I have hands and feet? I mean, during today, I have made myself cups of tea. I've used my computer. I've used my phone. I've walked from this room to the kitchen, to upstairs, done. My hands and feet have been amazing. And that's just today. They are brilliant. And I have hands and feet. And I can't tell you, because I have no clue what's going on internally in my body, all of the things that I have got. When I start to look in that direction and just stop and kind of, wow, it's amazing. I've actually got hair,
Yes.
I've got eyes. It's just the human body, what I have got, and the deeper truth of who I am, the fact that I am aware of those things, just wow. And when we begin to look in that direction, instead of looking at in ways that I'm not good enough, the ways that I'm better than this person and not as good as another person, when we just bring ourselves back to who we are in this moment and just how magnificent we are in this moment, and start from there, life starts to unfold in quite a different way. I think back to what George was pointing to last night. Life just becomes a whole different experience when we begin to view it in that way, in ways that you probably can't even imagine.
Oh, when you were saying that about your hands and feet, I was reminding of that quote. I can't think for the life of me what the person's name is, but it was I think an ex-soldier who lost one of his legs and then maybe became a Paralympic. I might have made that up, but it's someone who'd lost a leg in a war anyway. And there's a very famous quote where somebody asks him how he can be so happy with only one leg, and he replies, how can you be so unhappy when you have two legs? And it's just the simplicity of that. It's like we are so geared up to looking for the things that are wrong in ourselves. We are so focused on that we miss the simple things like having, and I don't know, maybe you don't have two legs, I've no idea, but you have some beautiful things, trust me.
You're alive and you're watching this, so
you have some incredibly beautiful things, whatever that is, whether it's hands and feet, whether it's hair, whether it's eyesight, or anything else at all. You have beauty, trust me on that. I can't even see you, and I know that's true. And that for me is the starting point here. And it's the finishing point. The love the you that you are, because you have something beautiful. We all do. And it starts from this incredible, I don't know what you want to call it, spark inside of us. It's this essence of who we all are. It's the thing that connects every single human being on the planet. It's the thing that drove, when Deb was talking earlier about the 9/11 example, it's the thing that drove people to go above and beyond for the other human beings that they'd never met before in the midst of what appeared to be a horrible tragedy. It's the thing that drives us no matter what. there's something beautiful about us as human beings. And like the more and more we have this conversation, the more and more I see that. And it starts to become more difficult not to love who you are. It starts to become more difficult not to love the people around you. And then that for me is exactly what we were saying in our answer to how to stop attracting unhealthy relationships. It starts to become really difficult to attract unhealthy relationships when you love who you are in this moment. Because as soon as you do, you start to notice that you love everyone else too.
Mm.
Because there isn't that separation between us that appears to be there. That's an illusion. Like, I am you and you are me. And there's nothing more to it than that.
I love that. I love when we come back to that place of kind of seeing that there is no separation. And if we go right back to that being 100% human and 100% spiritual, part of our 100% spiritual nature is the fact that we are not separate. There is not more than one thing here. And then our 100% humanness gives us this amazing gift of each one of us being different and being an individual. And part of the Dare to Be You for me is being that individual, daring to be that, whilst knowing that we are this 100% connected. You know, we're not on our own here. Someone's got your back. This intelligence, this connection that we are, someone's got you. You're held. You're safe, and yet you can live this beautiful. You can be you. You know, you're different to me, Beck. Me and Beck are very alike in many ways and very, very different in many ways. And, you know, it's my job, if we go back to that comparison thing, sometimes it's very, very easy for me to get into my head about what Beck is good at and things that I can't do. And then it's like, it's Beck's job to be Beck and be good at those things. And it's my job to be me and do what I do, and to love that Beck can do the things she does and I can do the things I do. So I think it's an absolute gift to be both the oneness, to be both completely and utterly connected and never alone, and yet be this amazing individual that you are, filled with the beauty that Beck was talking about. So.
Yeah. So that topic, which was inspired by the Nutriary Summit, the As You Are Summit, if you're a little bit intrigued now as to what we might be doing on Friday and what's happening in that summit.
And there are some other amazing speakers on there as well.
It's a whole event that's happening through January. So I think the stuff that's already happened, but you can access that if you've missed it. So we'll make sure below this there's some information about joining in with that webinar with us on Friday, as well as kind of accessing everybody else's webinars and such as well. There's absolutely loads going on there. Helen's doing a fantastic job.
Yes, so amazing lady.
We'll make sure you can find out how to get involved with that. And as always, there's lots and lots of ways to work with us. We enticed you with a couple of those things at the beginning of the call. But if you are kind of interested in working with us in any way, there's lots and lots of ways to do that. You can visit our website, daretobeyou.co.uk, drop us a message. We're very available. Our email address is daretobeyou@gmx.co.uk, or connect with us on Facebook, comment below this video. You're pretty much going to struggle not to find us. We're just here, there and everywhere. So yeah, be in touch if there's any kind of way that you're interested in working with us. Or if you've got topics or questions you'd like us to cover in our YouTube show, because we're always looking for stuff to talk about that you're particularly interested in.
Okay, so I cannot see anything.
Can you see the board? We have on the board. We have it written what we're talking about next week, and Deb hasn't got her glasses on.
No, it's not to do with glasses. It's to do with the computer is in the way.
The computer's in the way. Shall I read it out for you then, Deb? You just sit there and look pretty.
How do I? That's what I can see.
So next week, our question is, how do I see the good in me and my partner? And can you read our topic?
When unity speaks.
Oh, yes, this is going to be such a good one. Actually, I feel like we kind of touched on some of that already tonight, so spoiler alert. But yeah, we wanted to kind of talk a little bit about, we see a lot of stuff out on kind of Facebook and other social media that we use, where people we talked just a minute ago about separation and actually all being one. And often, the way people talk about things and share things, it can be very specific and very kind of, let's build a women's group over here, or let's talk about how men this, and they're beautiful in their own rights, absolutely. But we absolutely want to talk more about unity and bringing everybody back together. So we decided our topic for next week was when unity speaks.
Yes, there's definitely something about bringing the feminine and the masculine together, isn't it, rather than separating it out. So yeah, I love that. So
yes,
very
so that's
excited
our topic
about
for
that.
next week. I think we've managed to talk ourselves out 2 whole minutes early,
Oh,
or a minute and a half early. So you can
Goodness.
have an early evening.
So thank you so much for being
us.
with us tonight, and hopefully you will be with us next week. And as Beck said, there's lots of places you can catch up with us in between if you want to. And don't forget that we're doing those calls. So if you do want to have a conversation with us, have a chat with us, we would absolutely love that. So get in touch with us.
We hope the start of your new year has been as fun as ours.
Absolutely.
And we'll see
run
you
into you somewhere very soon. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.